thank you so much for coming to Build. How are you doing?
Me. Good.
It's great to have you here.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
How is it then for you coming from LA? We have a lot of guests from LA and they come to New York for like a set amount of time because you're a founder of a fashion website, you're a best-selling author, you're a host, you're now an executive producer. How is New York inspiring for you compared to LA?
New York's inspiring because this is where there's so much business that happens here, and New York's a place where you can have a meeting like almost every hour. In LA, if you need to drive across town for one meeting, that's like your entire day. So I find myself getting a lot done here, and people just go a little bit later, and business and pleasure mix more, I think, here. Yeah.
Have you ever lived in New York City?
Never lived in New York, no.
Would you consider it?
I don't know, maybe someday. I feel like New York's a city that you need to move to when you're like 20 to like really, you move here when you're young.
You've got to have the energy to withstand everything it throws at you.
Yeah, I think I could live within like a driving distance of
Upstate New York.
Yeah.
Could be pretty.
Yeah.
So I was thinking to myself, like, there's so much that you've done, so much that you've achieved. Your life is just so colorful, everything that's brought you to this place now. So I was like, how am I going to start this interview? I want to ask her everything. I want to talk about everything. So I decided we'll start it just how you start your Girlboss Radio podcast. So what was your first job?
My first job.
Yeah, and how did it lead you to where you are today?
I love this. Well, my first job was as a sandwich artist at Subway.
Your very first job?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I had like a paper route for a second before that and like maybe a lemonade stand. But yeah, I was 15. I was homeschooling. And so I went and worked the lunch rush at the Subway down the street. And I made sandwiches like a champ. And I remember my dad telling me things like, when there's nothing left to do, like sweep the floors, like don't stand around. And that's something I think I did do that at Subway. I mean, it's not a job that I had for a really long time, but I took it pretty seriously.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's kind of like cute when someone's like 15 and trying really hard. I feel like it's all kind of downhill from there, but I did, that's like a part of like, I don't know, like that work ethic was like instilled in me from a very young age.
The key is like take pride in what you do no matter what it is.
Yeah, and the detail of like, balancing just the right amount of olives on a sandwich is something
What is just the right amount of olives? Because like olives and onions, it's a fine line.
Totally. For like a 6-inch, there's actually like a chart in the back at Subway of like how many olives you're supposed to put on the sandwich, and I think it might be like 6 or 9 for like a 6-inch.
Insider information.
I don't know.
Subway.
Yeah,
should be knowing this.
Pretty exciting.
So I also read, so growing up, you've said yourself that you were kind of apathetic towards jobs and working and stuff. So just talk to me a little bit about that and why you think that was, and just figuring out what exactly you wanted to do.
Well, I think some people wake up, and as a child and they're possessed, or as a teenager, they know what they want to do with their life. I wasn't one of those people, and I think there's a lot of people that are trying to find out what their talents are, and it's really frustrating, especially in a world where you're supposed to choose a direction. And that's not really how life works for so many of us, and that's not how it worked for me. And so I was really frustrated because I knew I had some talent. I didn't know what it was. The jobs that I had weren't jobs that connected me to the work that I was doing. They were like, show up, sit in a lobby, check student IDs. I liked working in a bookstore. I liked anything that involved like alphabetizing or categorizing things, photo labs, record stores, all of that. But I think it's a pretty normal thing to be frustrated, and I tried a lot of different things. I had a lot of different jobs, and started an eBay store when I was 22 years old, which to me was just a way to not work for other people, which is what I had been doing for so long. And lo and behold, I never planned on saying the words like nasty gal 10 years later, but it's been a decade.
Yes, 10-year anniversary coming up in November.
Yeah.
What are you going to do to celebrate?
I don't know. I never have time to celebrate. I feel like all of these things, like these amazing moments happen, and you're just like too busy like living life to stop and.
Well, you're busy creating more amazing moments.
That's the idea. Yes.
So when was it then that you decided, like you're sitting there, you have your eBay store set up, and it's beginning to take off? When were you like, okay, this is actually a career I can stop looking for other things now. This is what in my heart that I want to do?
It took like a good year and a half. You know, I remember like I was really stoked on my eBay store, but my mom was like, you need to go back to community college, and you know, you need to, like, this isn't it. What are you going to do, eBay for the rest of your life? I mean, it's like, and so I went back to community college while I was still on eBay. I thought,
What did you study?
oh God, I took like an anthropology class, and after a certain age, going back to community college, I mean, you know, I was only 23 maybe at this time, but like you're in an anthropology class and some kids wearing like headphones behind you and like giggling when they say like Lake Titicaca, and it's like, oh my God, yeah, you know, just like, I think I'm doing okay on eBay for now. So that was like, I think I made it through this semester, but I just was doing like general education stuff. But like the moment I think that I knew that I wasn't going to be doing anything else was when I launched the website. And so that was a year and a half. You know, I was on eBay for about a year and a half, and launched, it was nastygalvintage.com at the time, and everything just sold out instantly, which I totally didn't expect, and it was insane to try to just get more product on the site. It was just me, like shooting everything, editing the photos, you know, writing all the descriptions, shipping everything.
You were a one-woman show. You did everything yourself at the start. Right?
When I launched the website, yes, and very, very soon after that, I hired my first employee. But that was it when like Kelly Ripa's stylist called and said, do you have that vintage jacket but in an extra small? And I'm like, well, one, it's sold, and two, it's vintage. There are not multiple sizes.
Look up the meaning of the word.
But I was like, you know, in like the East Bay area of San Francisco, in like a weird like, you know, room in like a old like military arsenal, just, you know, probably like, I don't know, wearing like a weird, like a sweatshirt, and Los Angeles and New York, and I mean, I'd been to New York, but like a celebrity stylist seemed like so far away. And I remember being like, I'm gonna dress famous people.
Made it.
Oh,
That was the moment.
that was it. I think that was it. It's pretty funny that Kelly Ripa has anything to do with it. But
Does she own some Nasty Gal clothes now?
she better. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, she could pull it off.
She definitely could.
Yeah.
She's got the bod.
I know.
So there's Girl Boss and then there's Nasty Gal. So who is a Nasty Gal? And then is it synonymous always with Girl Boss? Are they linked?
I think a nasty gal is a girl boss with style.
Oh, okay.
I think what you're wearing is very nasty gal.
Am I a Nasty Gal? Great.
You are. Your skirt. I love your
I
skirt.
tried.
You
It's
did.
PVC.
I know. I love that you're wearing like
I put
plastic.
a bit of thought into it.
A nasty gal is someone who's like the best dressed girl in the room. She's unafraid of taking risks with her style. She gets dressed for herself and not for other people, and just has fun with it. I mean, getting dressed is something that we all have to do every day. I didn't plan on being in fashion, but what I have found about fashion and clothes in general is that they have a transformational quality. Mm-hmm. It's something we have to do every day. It's a ritual. Why not make it as important as, you know, other things that we do to take care of ourselves? And so it's how we present ourselves to the world, but most importantly, it's how we present ourselves to ourselves when we choose, you know, to adorn ourselves. And so I don't think fashion has to be vapid. I don't think I'm, you know, saving the world either, but I do think it can be an important part of our life.
And in your book, you speak quite a lot about the importance of breaking rules. So what is like the most, I guess, important rule that you've broken in life and that it was most beneficial?
Gosh, the most important rule I broke. I mean, I think I did learn. I was like a petty thief in my late teens, and I think that's where I learned a little bit about like hustling and entrepreneurship in the weirdest way, and I don't know how to make that link, and I'm sure there's like been articles written about this in somewhere, but just like when you're like, I don't know, like when you're hustling and you have to like, I don't know, always have like looking around for like what's happening next. And I mean, the first stuff I sold online was stuff that I had like stolen, which I'm not proud of, and this wasn't the eBay store. This was like long before that, like teenage times. But the mechanics of selling online was something that I learned with like stolen stuff. So I guess
it's a great story.
I guess
feel like
I'm not proud of it. I'm not endorsing it. But I think that, you know, often breaking the rules, we learn what to do right, and that isn't sustainable, and that you shouldn't keep doing that because you'll wind up with a life that you don't enjoy. I got away with it for a little while, and thank God I finally got caught. And but yeah, I think that was maybe a good rule that I broke.
It was a useful rule that you
For
broke.
a little while.
And lo and behold, here you are now. And we're going to talk about this gorgeous new book, Nasty Galaxy, in a second. But I kind of want to delve into #Girlboss. It was a New York Times bestseller. It came out 2014. The phrase #Girlboss, I checked now, has like over 3.2 million tags on Instagram. It's like a known phrase that people are using. Did you know when you were naming that book that it would become, like, I use #Girlboss in my everyday vernacular.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I really didn't know that. I thought it was a great title, but the book was just like this runaway success. It's like, it spent like 18 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list. I didn't anticipate that. And so, yeah, Girlboss has become a lot more than just a book. I have a podcast now. There's a Netflix series that's coming based on the book, which is crazy. And it's a word that people do use in their everyday life, as though it is like a term. And it wasn't really out there prior to the book coming out. And so I don't know. I'm proud of that.
I was kicking myself. I was like, why didn't I come up with that? It's just really catchy.
Thanks.
And so who is a girl boss? And if you had to describe, what are some characteristics that she has?
Yeah, I mean, I think being a girl boss is just waking up and being deliberate about your day and your life, and taking control of your life and not living your life for other people or for their expectations. I think it's nice to take other people's expectations into concern, but not to live your life, I don't know.
For someone else.
For someone else. Being a girl boss is just about writing your own rules. And what I found when I wrote the book, I feel like I'm saying girl boss way too much. What I found when I wrote the book is that my story is just one story, and that people were so inspired by one story made me think, oh my gosh, there's so many other stories out there.
Yeah.
So sharing our stories is a really powerful thing, and that's something that I do with the podcast, Girlboss Radio, and everyone has a start. And so, you asked me what my first job was. I think it's really important to make sure that we're not just talking about where people end up and their success at wherever they, whatever we know them for, but how they got there and how they got their start, because it makes the whole world a lot more relatable for the rest of us.
Everyone has to begin somewhere.
Yeah.
So then in terms of Girlboss Radio, I don't want to ask like who's the most inspirational guest, but who surprised you most out of everyone you've interviewed so far?
I really, really enjoyed my talk with Alyssa Mastromonaco, who was the former deputy chief of staff to President Obama.
Oh, wow, okay.
And is now the chief operating officer at Vice. She's also interviewing me at our Brooklyn book event on Wednesday night, which is at Villain while I'm at it, someplace called Villain. But she's just whip smart and super funny and so informed. And I think coming, someone who's like a community college dropout, I often anticipate meeting people like that, these very educated, very successful, very informed women, and think, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to hold my weight. I'm not going to know what she's talking about, or I don't know enough about politics, or I don't know enough about whatever it is. And when people show up and include you and bring you along for the ride, it's a really powerful thing. And she just has such a great quality to her.
So it's a lot to do with skill, talent, but also personality, the traits of being a girl boss.
Yes, absolutely.
One of those people who's friends with everyone at the party.
Yeah, but make me genuine.
Yeah,
there's people who are friends with everyone at the party, and they're just the
fake friends.
Creepiest people in the world.
So, Nasty Galaxy, it arrived on my door a few days ago, and it's absolutely gorgeous.
Can you lift it with one hand? It's
also
4
doubles
pounds.
up as a workout. It's perfect.
It's
so just tell me, it's a mixture of so much. There's clips from your wedding, and we get an insider sneak peek into your house, and then there's star signs that are just very blunt and also just so honest, and then there's profiles of all the different girl bosses that have been in your book and on your show. It's a mixture of so much. How did you make it cohesive?
Yeah.
It reads fluidly.
It's cohesive because it's all orbiting in the same galaxy. And so these are things that inspire me, women that inspire me, quotes that inspire me, writing, there's mini essays, things that I've written in there. Illustrations by Tuesday Basson, who's this awesome LA illustrator. So it's really just, it's all the things that make up Nasty Gal, Nasty Gal's influences, my influences, and with like a sprinkling of like girl boss, I don't know, inspiration.
Girlboss Fairy.
So it's still an inspiring book. There's still a lot to take away from it, but it's also a really beautiful, colorful, visual book and guide to my world and my mind.
Your galaxy.
Yeah, my galaxy.
I read in the foreword that you were saying like there's Nasty Gal, and then Nasty Galaxy was like a term that you had in your head for a while, and you weren't quite sure because it was a natural progression from Nasty Gal to make something of it. So when did you decide that it was going to be a book?
Nasty Galaxy? I think in another life I was like a copywriter. I mean, that's a big part of having built the brand is just like, you know, having a consistent voice, and that's something I've always like cared a lot about words. And so naming things is just like, it was just like Girl Boss. Like there was never another name for Girl Boss. There was never another name for this book. It's just like, I'm gonna call this one Nasty Galaxy. Okay, now I'm gonna put it together. I don't know. But the name had been kicking around in my head for a while. There's also Nasty Gallery, but I don't know when I'm going to open a gallery. So,
and if it was Nasty Gallery, you wouldn't get to have your cool photo shoot in a spacesuit.
No, yeah, and I'd have to
awesome pictures of
pay rent and
So also a foreword is by Courtney Love, and I have to say, out of all the #Girlboss podcast episodes I listened to, her one for me was just phenomenal. Because I'm a music lover. I actually admittedly didn't know a lot about her. Like you said, her beginnings. Like we know who she is now, but we didn't really know where she came from.
Yeah.
So talk to me a bit about your relationship with her and how you guys have become friends and how it came about that she did the foreword on the book.
Totally. So we did a collaboration with Courtney in January of last year. I think there's another one coming. I think I can talk about it.
Ooh, tell us.
Yeah, it's like later this year, but it's gorgeous. She's someone who has never done a fashion collection before. She's been the muse for so many designers and gotten no credit. She's a woman with singular style and who knows herself, who's made her mistakes and learned from them, and is just like has like wild stories. She's just like a living legend. And Nasty, you know, it's like there's, I don't know, no one more perfect to collaborate with for a brand like Nasty Gal. So that was really how it started. And then I was putting this book together, and there's so many, like there's a lot of female music icons in there, and other women who inspire me. So I thought, you know, who better than Courtney Love to write the introduction? And I was lucky she said yes.
And how did you feel when you read it?
Really flattered. Yeah, I mean that like she says some really nice things in there, and to inspire someone like her is a crazy thing to consider doing.
But she is a quintessential girl boss herself.
I think so. So. She's become one.
So if you could hope then, out of someone who reads Nasty Galaxy, if there was one takeaway that they would have, how would you hope they would feel after reading it?
I think inspired visually to like curate your life in a way that's very you, and also there's just so much. There is a lot of inspiration in the book from other people. Hopefully, things that I've written.
Quotes, such good quotes.
Yeah, there's a lot of quotes. So I think it's just something that you can sit and soak up. It's not a book that you can flip through. You don't have to go, you know, page by page, but you also like there's a lot to consume in there. So hopefully you can open it up to any page and find something that's worth like laughing at, crying about, or pointing your phone at and posting on social media. I don't know.
And so there's so much else. I know we're almost running out of time, but you've got like Girlboss Foundation, and I want to know more about the Netflix series. Just so many strings to your bow. So Girlboss Foundation.
Yes.
Talk to me a bit about that, because that's just incredible, and huge amounts of money being donated to others. So
yeah, so the foundation's really important to me. I started it when, you know, Girlboss was published, and so far we've given $90,000 in grants to female creative entrepreneurs.
how do you select them?
It's like a committee process, and it's like a weeding through of like a lot of applications, and then we narrow it down and look at the final, you know, a final like couple handfuls. It's being creative is, all of my friends are creative, but understanding how to run a business based on, your talent as a creative is a whole nother thing, and I think a lot of people struggle with it. So to support women who are doing that is a really natural thing for me.
And what have been some of the success stories from the Girlboss Foundation? Some of them are in the book, aren't they?
Totally, yeah. There's interviews with two different grant recipients in the book. It's really given girls an opportunity to one-up their businesses. For example, there's someone who runs a company called Urban Works Textiles, which is mostly on Etsy, and she hand illustrates things and then prints them on textiles and makes pillows and wall hangings and frames things, and her orders were taking like 6 weeks to fulfill because she had to farm it out to somewhere else. So the grant actually allowed her to buy like a commercial grade printer that she has in her studio now and fulfill orders like much more quickly and build her business. And
you can relate to that because I heard it. Well, I listened to the audiobook of Girlboss actually, so I'm like, I heard in your book how like you would tenuously be doing things like in terms of like the computer database that would take hours and hours.
There's a lot, yeah. When you run an online business, you have to do. There's so much to do. You have to be an expert at everything.
And so 2017, we're going to see Girlboss on Netflix.
Girlboss on Netflix.
So is it based, like you're saying it's based on your book, but your book is based on your life. So is there true to life Sophia Amoruso stories in there, or is it sort of pulling from it?
It's pulling from it. There's some things that are like, didn't happen when this other thing was happening at the same time. It's all inspired by my life. I'd rather just say it's inspired by the book because it's weird. It's an interesting thing to have happen in your life.
Yeah.
So Britt Robertson plays me, who
Yeah.
was in Tomorrowland with George Clooney, and she's an incredible actress.
Longest Ride.
Yeah.
Scott Eastwood.
Charlize Theron's producing it, and
Yeah.
Kay Cannon, who wrote Pitch Perfect and Pitch Perfect 2, is the creator and showrunner and writer. So it's just like, it's amazing to have an all-access pass into like watching a Netflix show be made. That's the coolest thing about it is the education, to be an executive producer. On a television show, which I never ever thought would happen.
Which is just another notch on the belt now. So many jobs.
Yes. Yeah.
So what do you do then for yourself? Like there's an interesting part in Nasty Galaxy about like your thoughts on balance. So it's like work-life balance. We all strive to have it. It's so subjective to the person, or relative to the person, I should say. Do you think you've achieved balance, and what are your thoughts on that and the importance of it?
I don't think there is. I don't believe in balance, and I think we can take care of ourselves. We can do our very best to take care of ourselves, but I don't think there's like a steady state that is like, I'm balanced today. I just don't. It just doesn't.
Do you meditate?
Doesn't really. No, and I should. Meditation is like the one piece of advice that I've gotten more than any other, and
I'm
ignored
such an advocate for
more
it.
than any other. Do you meditate?
Yeah.
What kind?
I do Headspace, the
Oh,
Headspace
cool.
app. Yeah, it's
Those
really
guys
good
are
at
really nice.
centering your thoughts.
Yeah, it's so crazy. I met them at a venture capital people.
The Andy Pugh guy, the Headspace creator.
The guy with the voice.
Yeah,
and
he's
so
the creator
once
and
that
the
his voice is in your head, he was like in the room, and I was like, oh my god, it's the Headspace guy. Like it's such a specific.
It
yeah,
is.
it's pretty.
And I was like, it's so convenient that the creator of Headspace is also just the best VO artist ever in the world for the app.
Yeah.
But for yourself, like, what do you do if you need to just take a chill and step back from everything that's happening in your world?
Honestly, I'll watch crap TV. I might eat In and Out. Or I'll try to take maybe a 3-day weekend. I can really zen out for three nights somewhere and not feel like I just took a whole week off. But you can really extend the long weekend into feeling like you really got away. So I try to do that. Staying in my own house, I love my house, and I should be able to relax there. But when you're around your own stuff, it's just like a physical to-do list.
Yeah.
So getting out of my house ends up being really important.
Nice, some intense R&R.
Yeah.
So I think we have some questions from the audience.
Hi, Sophia.
Hi.
I want to say congratulations on your book. That's so exciting.
Thanks.
I wanted to know, with everything available now for the millennials specifically, what are 3 tips for entrepreneurship for those that are seeking to do it?
Totally. I would say don't put all your eggs in one basket, or don't go in too hard initially. Have an idea, test it, get feedback before you just go full force. I think also having your brand really tight. Like, it's incredibly important, more important than ever, I think, to have your creative together and all your creative collateral together and have a very consistent brand. And then what else? Hire people smarter than you. That's the trick. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Hi.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
So, me personally, I'm more into like videography and video, putting my message out as video. And I just feel like as women, whenever you want to be, okay, I'm a real woman, so that means I'm going to talk about sex. Like, how did you come up with your story and have the confidence to say, okay, my story is worth listening to, and I think other people are going to actually listen to it?
Yeah, that's such a good question. Because, yeah, women, it's just like every women's magazine, I feel like I grew up, everyone's talking about like sex and love all the time. And it's like, actually, like, that's interesting to talk about, maybe like in a closed room with like your friends or something. For me, it's not like it's just, anyway, it's kind of embarrassing that that's like what we're supposed to be thinking about, what we're told that we're supposed to be thinking about. In terms of my story, I'm not someone who, was like, I'm gonna just tell my story. I was getting comments on social media like, hey, I want to do what you did, or I want to figure out how to start an online business, or your story inspired me. I remember when you were on eBay, or asking advice. I only have so much business advice. I'm still learning so much. But the Girlboss was really kind of a response to, what I was reading on social media. And as someone who didn't plan on being in business, or a businesswoman, growing up, I saw business people as like these squares, and that's just, everyone's an entrepreneur now, and it's a very different world. So I wanted to write a book for the girl who maybe had like not even been in the business book section, or like would go over there and be like, these books are ugly. But writing the book was really a response, I think, to what people were asking me for. Yeah.
Do you remember the first time you told your story? Like, did you always know that it was really interesting and how you got there was fascinating compared to the average person? And then when you told it for the first time, were you like, wow, that actually is fascinating?
No, I don't think I've ever stopped and been like, wow. I mean, there was things that I had held back. Like, yeah, I hitchhiked and did all this shit when I was like in my late teens, and made a lot of dumb moves, and somehow was always totally fine, landed on my feet. That stuff I waited to put in a book, because if I had told a reporter, and reporters, I'd published the business's story before the book was out, just how it came to be. But the full story, telling someone who's gonna then like spin it into their own words and maybe be like, I turned it into something sensational. I didn't want to happen, and so there's a lot in my first book, in Girlboss, that I wanted to control the narrative of. I think it's important to control our narratives when we can.
And was it daunting just putting so much of your life out there for the world?
A little bit, but not really. It's just, I think we're all sharing a lot now, and it's pretty normal. And the coolest thing is that it just makes other people feel less alone. I mean, parents are like, came up to my mom on the first book tour and were like, my kid is flailing, your daughter gives me hope. Like, it's so cute. Yes. So it's just like telling our stories makes all of us feel less alone, because nobody talks about so many things that are totally normal. It's like weird.
And how did your mom feel about that kind of thing being said to her now? Because
my mom, how does she feel?
Yeah, because in
She's
your
stoked.
book she didn't understand why you didn't want to go to college or do this and that.
She's finally like, okay, I get it. Like, you're fine. She kind of, it's funny when your parents run out of things to help you with. I think that's a little challenging for them.
Yeah.
So that's, we've gotten over that. She posts a lot on Facebook. She's really proud.
She's your cheerleader.
She's a cheerleader. I'm an only child, and she's like half retired, and she
who
loves
also
Facebook.
happens to be hugely successful. So
yeah, well, thanks.
Any other questions from the audience?
Hi, Sophia.
Hi.
In building your brand, how did you come up with the name Nasty? And also, I've been to your San Francisco store many times. Is there going to be a New York City store?
Do you mean the LA store?
The LA store, yeah.
Cool.
Sorry, I don't know why I said
I really do want to have a New York store. There's no plans for one. In terms of the name, I was choosing the name of an eBay store, so it wasn't as big of a decision as it should have been, because I wasn't planning on really starting a business. I was just selling some stuff on eBay. And Nasty Gal is the name of an album by a woman named Betty Davis, who was married to Miles Davis and this super stylish, like raunchy funk singer, and was like an ex-runway model. And I like loved her music, and I was just like, I'm gonna call it Nasty Gal. And it
was kind of breaking the rules of like a typical vintage online store
everything
name.
was like hippy dippy dust. You know, it was like mama, you know, feather in my boot, vintage,
Magical
whatever.
Fairy Countrysideland.com.
Really hippy dippy stuff. So I was like, I'm gonna call it Nasty Gal.
And the rest is history.
Yeah.
Thank you so
On
much,
Netflix.
Sophia.
Thank you.
It was great to be chatting to you. And the book comes out the 4th of October, tomorrow.
Tomorrow,
And you're going to be signing it in Barnes & Noble in Union Square, right?
Yes.
So if you want to see her there, that's where she's going to be.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.